Ani anap Chadik Deante. Ani anat Akama Autumn to Tahana Autumn to Scripture. Ani anap Ki Vaki. And Ani Unyamashtam Busik Apitak. So, hi everybody. My name is Deante Moore. I am Akama Autumn, which means river people, and also Tahana Autumn, which means desert people. And I'm also Black. And I'm a member of the Gila River Indian community in Arizona. Our reservation is located right under Phoenix. Um, what else? Oh, I'm also a master's student as well, studying clinical mental health at the University of North Texas. So I'm currently uh, not Skyping, but video chatting from you guys from the ancestral homelands of Caddo and the Wichita and affiliated tribes, ancestral homelands. And what else? I'm also an artist, yes, like mentioned. I have a small business that is called Dearte. So yeah, I was born in Oklahoma, but raised in Texas. So born in like Lawton and lived in War Acres, close to Oklahoma City, until I was like 5, and then I moved to what's called Pflugerville. A lot of people don't know what that's called, but it's by Austin area. So I was pretty much raised there, but now I go to school at Denton.
So, Tatalach, good afternoon. My name is Mikailah Thompson. I am a bead worker from Lapwai, Idaho, part of the Nimiipuu or Nez Perce tribe, as many people know us by. I've been beading now. Let's see, my grandmother taught me when I was 10, and then I put it down, picked it back up when I was, let's see, in college. So I think I was about 19 when I picked it back up. So I've been going strong since then, kind of just, taking orders by word of mouth and perfecting my craft and figuring out how to do certain things and just kind of having that journey. And it wasn't until 2021, so a couple years ago, I decided to just go full time with it. And I've been loving it ever since. It was the best decision I ever made. So I've been doing that full time for the last 2 years. So yeah, trying to think what else I can kind of throw in there. But yeah, so I grew up both on bi-coastal. I grew up on the East Coast. I also grew up on my res for a little bit. So I think all of that kind of influences my work in some sort of way, obviously including family and culture. So yeah, that's a little bit about me and my work background.
I love that. That's great. Thank you so much. And thank you so much, Deante, for being here. Let's just jump in. So as mixed race artists, sorry, I can't speak today. How do you celebrate both your Native and your Black heritage? Mikailah, let's jump back to you.
Yeah, so I guess how do I celebrate it in general? Just as an individual. Yeah, so I think growing up, I have two amazing parents. My dad really, growing up, he really encouraged me to kind of know where I come from and know that history. My dad's Black, my mom's Native. So he always grew up making sure that I was watching the right things and doing, understanding and reading about the right things because obviously the school systems weren't going to teach the correct history. And so he always made sure I was proud of who I was and understanding that I came from two very, very strong backgrounds that is full of culture, and especially with my Black side, understanding that it goes, past slavery. And so that was something I kind of was always engaged in and tapped into. I was kind of grew up around my Black side of the family for like the first 10 years of my life. So being very close with my grandmother and my family and just kind of understanding that whole side of me was something that my dad always made sure that I was, tapped into. And then when it came to my mom's side, I didn't move out into the res until I was about 10. And then after that, it was kind of just back and forth, just because I like new experience. I like switching up the scene. And that's kind of how it was throughout my whole childhood is, being on the res, but also being on the East Coast too. So with my mom and, my grandmother and my family, I come from a very strong background of amazing leaders and amazing people. The Halfmoon family, especially Halfmoon and Ellenwood family is where I come from. And so we had a really deep, rich history. My family knew, we had that lineage. We had that that documentation to support, where I came from, who I came from generations and generations and generations. And so just getting to understand that side of my family, and also the language and some of these cultural traditions that I wasn't always exposed to immediately growing up, and it was a process for my mom too. I think she even kind of mentioned, being on a res, you don't realize what you have until you're away from it. And so once we kind of came back, though, that's when the learning kind of became fun, and the questions were beginning to, get asked. Same with beadwork and picking up, my needle and beads, not understanding that, but seeing that, this is something that's important to my tribe. My grandmother, was doing it. She had tons of beads and tons of pieces, and, that sparking my curiosity to ask even more questions. And so fast forward to now, I think I carry who I am and, where I come from with me, with everything that I do. And with that being said, there's a lot of obstacles that we kind of have to get over as not only, Black natives, but biracial people, and how, where we fit in. And after having that understanding of, I choose my identity and where I choose to come from and be, and engage in. I think once I kind of had that whole mentality as to I have nothing to prove to anyone, I think representation really became really important to me as of the last couple years, and understanding that there are so many people on the res, even outside of the res, that feel exactly the way I feel or have felt, or have gone through certain things. And when it comes to identity and culture, and kind of, understanding that and learning that. So as of right now, I guess how I carry that with me is just, showcase, you're understanding who I am, but also showing the next generation that it's okay to be completely who you are. You don't have to diminish either side of you, no matter where you are. So just creating forms of representation and, bringing voices together, I guess, in terms of my line of work, in order to, share what they do and do it proudly. So I always am carrying who I am on my back, and also being a humble student and learning some of the things that my parents never got the chance to learn, and my grandparents never got the chance to learn. So that's kind of how I hold who I am with me in everything that I do.
That's so inspiring. Thank you, Mikailah. And it does feel like a lifelong learning process for sure. Deante, please tell us how you celebrate both sides of your heritage.
In like art, right? What were you saying?
Or just in general, but also art. We'll get to that too.
Okay, so kind of similar to Mikailah. Yeah, my dad's Black and my mom's Native American. But my mom's also biracial as well, so she's Native American and Black. But something that's different, I guess. Well, my mom really tried to get us involved in the Native American community, because we were pretty much isolated from everybody, like my family. We're the only ones that moved away from like Oklahoma at the time as well. So we were in a predominantly white area. So I was always the only Native American kid in like a lot of spaces growing up, basically until I got into college. So I didn't really have like a community as much as I wanted growing up, but I did have like a short section of my life. So it was like when I was in second grade to sixth grade, when I was involved in like a intertribal community. I don't really know how that got like set up or anything, but we just stopped meeting pretty much like around sixth grade. So I didn't have like a community at all after that. And then my grandmother was born on the reservation. She met my grandfather, who was Black, and then she wasn't really accepted into the community because of that interracial love and everything like that. So she moved away and moved to Oklahoma. So we never really had connection to our actual tribe. So we didn't really feel comfortable going back to the res for those reasons. And then whenever we did try to actually visit family members, we were rejected and were often ostracized, and people didn't really want to come out of their houses to see us. So it was like a lot of pain there. And my mom stayed away for so long until I was like old enough to like reach out to relatives that are alive still and that are living on the reservation. And I planned like a whole trip for us to be out there. And I talked to cousins like on Facebook and everything. And like the relatives that weren't really accepting of like the biracial mix, they have passed away. So it was like a new generation that I was able to connect with and like bridge that healing for my family. And I was like the only one at the time as well that could really connect into like the culture, because another long story. But my grandmother basically went through Indian boarding school, so she didn't teach a lot of different things to us. So we didn't really know pretty much anything. She didn't teach a language, none of the traditions, culture. So we didn't know anything. She didn't teach me anything. She didn't feel comfortable. She felt like she was protecting my my mom and her siblings. So like whenever she was speaking her language on the phone, if they walked in, she would just start speaking English immediately. So she didn't want to pass anything on to protect my mom and her brothers. So I didn't know anything about like my actual tribe, but I knew from like a intertribal perspective, like when I was young. And that's when I learned how to bead, learn like drums, learn about power dancing, um, different things like smudging, just like more like an intertribal perspective, like what it means to be native. So I didn't really know what it means to be like Akama Altam or Pima. I didn't know what that meant. So I had to learn that like in my 20s. So yeah, when I got involved in like the Native American Student Association, I got more, I guess, inspired to like that it was a reason for me to learn these things because I really didn't feel like they were that important because I'm also going to be like the last generation that's an enrolled member of my tribe as a blood quantum. So I also was hesitant of even like learning these things, like if it mattered, because like my children, if I don't also have a child with somebody who's of my tribe, I won't be like my children won't be recognized. So I was like, what does it even matter? But I learned a lot like being in the community again, like is more than just that and like more than like colonial standards of what it means to be Native American. So there was a lot of that had to happen for me to like really incorporate um, like both like my indigeneity and my also my blackness into like art and like my identity as well. But my mom always told me to be proud, but still I also struggled with like internal feelings of like carrying on traditions, carrying on culture, like engraving like art. So it was a hard journey, but I would say like being in community and like being inspired by others and just slowly like also like as I was reconnecting, art was like a safe space for me to reconnect as well. So I was like reconnecting through like meeting people in the DFW community, like through art competitions. That's where I really got started, and that led me to like another art competition where I met more Native people, and then like I connected that way, felt more comfortable, and also was growing as an artist and also culturally because I was motivated to learn different like storytellings like in my tribe to be able to make an artwork of that and then share that with like my family. So my family was also learning from my artwork and like incorporating those different like historical things I was learning and cultural things I was learning. So it was like yeah, all integrated, but it helped me the most. Like my artwork helped me feel safe to be able to reconnect and to express my journey.
I love that. You brought up so much.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, no, it's great because there's so much that goes on in the Native community that I don't like. Sometimes it's not talked about broadly, especially with like blood quantum. And we're actually, Kevin, who's our co-lead for the Yahoo Native Americans, we were talking about having a panel on blood quantum just for the things you mentioned, because not a lot of people are aware of how tribes kind of depopulate themselves that way. But also, I loved your story about reconnecting and kind of doing that on your own when elders have really protected the culture or because of colonization, have been afraid to share that culture with their family. That happened with me too. My grandma spoke fluent Muskogee, but my mom didn't even know she knew that just because she was like, what good would it do you? Which is like the saddest thing, because I would love to know our language. But thank you so much for sharing all of that, Deante. And I wanted to get to some other expressions and advice you have, but just to kind of get back to your artwork. And if you guys have any examples of your artwork or beading, we would love to see it. But I'd love to know just how when you first started beading, what was it? What was that spark where you were like, I have to do this? I know, Mikailah, you mentioned kind of connecting with your grandma and her teaching you. And I'd also love to know, like, what was your first piece? What was the first piece you finished after you learned how to do your beadwork, Mikailah?
It took me a while to finish the piece. So I actually have this bag of unfinished pieces because I never knew how to finish them. So when I learned from my grandmother, I was about 10, but we also moved away and we didn't have FaceTime or Zoom or anything like that. So I just got as many things done to the point where like, okay, I don't know what to do with these anymore. So, and then once I got to college, that's when I kind of picked it back up. And I think I was working at like Wendy's, and my cousin was like, "Oh, well, why don't you pick up beading again? You know, maybe you can get into that and, you know, sell beadwork that way." And so I was like, "That is a good idea." I'm like, even if I'm not good at it, like it was something that I love to do. And so I think my first piece was like a medallion, like a Batman medallion or something. It was for my friend, and he was like, "Oh, I'll take your first piece." So I was like, "Okay." Um, but a lot of it was just kind of figuring it out. I kind of MacGyvered a lot of things, and so even though she taught me the basic stitch, I was in a place to where there was no trading posts. So I was shopping at Hobby Lobby or Michael's and all these other corporations, you know, using different supplies that other people probably didn't use because they had access to like buckskin and hide and all that other stuff. And so even to this day, a lot of the things that I use are kind of like school supplies because that's what I had in high school. And so the whole journey and kind of beadwork journey of it all is just kind of figuring it out as you go. And then kind of from there, what kind of sparked my interest into kind of shying away from, you know, because I was doing a lot of like logos or emblems like that just to kind of, you know, get the practice going. And, you know, that's what I seen when it came to medallions or earrings. I think once I decided to kind of take control of what I wanted to bead, it probably wasn't until just a few years ago. I was at first, it was just always just something that I did on the side. Um, Kind of like I said, word of mouth. If someone wants something in particular, I'll do it. But once I decided to do this like for myself, I literally did this for myself. Like I wanted to do something that represented not only myself, but just kind of sparked my creativity. So a lot of my influence just came off of a lot of things. It didn't really have anything in particular. I feel like some people are looking for this deep rooted story of how it connects to my roots. When realistically, I can just look at something on a TV show or, you know, look at some sort of design and be like, oh, I want to beat that, or I want to try to make that my own. Portraits are something that I really like to do. So I'm just constantly challenging myself to try different things and in different ways. Wall canvases have been one of something that I've been kind of obsessed with lately, just because I see myself as an artist first as opposed to a designer. The fashion lane isn't my lane. I feel I like, you know, to say I have wearable art, but I'm more so of an artist first. But it's really just kind of like learning who I am and trying to incorporate that in my work as well. So I mentioned this before that I took ancestry, and obviously with my Black side, you can only go so far, you know, to where you're doing research on your own. So I did ancestry, found out I was like a quarter Nigerian, which is crazy. So I was like, okay, now I want to start looking into their designs and their patterns because a lot of Africans do beadwork as well. So it's just trying, you know, I'm in the process now of wanting to kind of intertwine both, you know, cultures into my work in some sort of way. And I don't have it on me because it's sold, but it was a bag to where I had a Nimiipuu woman on the front and then I had an African design on the back. So that was really kind of cool, and it kind of sparked a lot of people's interest. And so I want to kind of start moving in that way a little bit more. And then also I'm working on a portrait piece of one of our great Nez Perce or Nimiipuu leaders. And so it's just really just learning and, you know, learning in all aspects as to, you know, what people like or, you know, what is attractive to the eye, but then also understanding and learning about me and how can I put a piece of me into each of my pieces. So that's kind of been my journey in terms of my beadwork journey and how I got to where I am now. But it's just constantly learning and trying new things and cutting things out and starting over or whatever. So it's been an awesome journey so far. And the more I understand, you know, where I come from and, you know, who I am, it kind of challenges me a little bit more to try new things and do new things.
I love that. I actually bought one of your masks during like the height of
Oh,
COVID
nice.
too. I love
Nice.
the design. I was like, oh, it's so versatile.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Mikailah. And Deante, tell us about your first piece that you beaded.
Oh, actually, can go grab it. If that's okay. I'll be back.
I'm surprised he still has it. That's awesome.
That is awesome. Oh my gosh. And I
Yeah.
saw your wall art. Oh my, I need to save up for that. It's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It was actually similar. Yeah, it's the Man in the Maze.
Oh, that's beautiful.
Thanks. I didn't bead before, like when since I was a child. I just tried it. I was just like, I gotta try it again. It feels kind of terrible if you look at it, but it was my first one I did like when I was like 19.
That isn't terrible. That's gorgeous.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, this is the first symbol I've learned from my tribe, so I felt like it was only right to be this first. The symbol of life is like basically for like all forces of tribes of the Otham. So yeah, symbol of life, and it represents like the different life stages. So like the man, it's called man in the maze. So like the person at the top represents like the self or like a creator, and then oh sorry, it's like he's doing like this blurry thing. Okay, so yeah, there's like four different directions that it comes out of the circle that represents like the different life stages. So like when you're and then newborn, when you're like a adolescent and adult, and then like an elder. So like it represents like those different life stages, and basically like how in a maze you go on different trials and tribulations, different things in life. Sometimes you might fall, and then but you come right back up, and but the center remains basically like home and also like your purpose in life. So that's me, man in a maze. So I wanted to do this one first, so I can wear it as well because I feel like it really kept me always grounded to know at least something for my tribe. And that's like the first thing that I learned, and like I kind of walked with that, like as I, especially when I was in college, because I didn't know what I wanted to do in life, and that kind of kept me grounded to know like it's okay to like fall and not know what you want to do in life, but to always is like remember that you have a purpose and it's gonna come, and that's gonna happen constantly throughout life. So that's like a symbol that I always carried. I have it like on my ring, and my earrings. So yeah, that's like the biggest, most important symbol to like my tribe and also me as well, that I've always felt grounded in. So I wanted to be that. But yeah, typically when I was younger, I only like beat it with like pony beads. So that was my first time like just doing self-taught with like seed beads, really. So from there on, I've been trying to do different things with seed beads. But I really got into like I like doing like beaded lanyards and like keychains because I'm very impatient as an artist as well. That's like one of my weaknesses. So it's something that I can finish that's quick and like I feel satisfied like I can finish it. Because if I don't, if it's not something I can finish it like in a day or the time I'm doing it, I won't pick it back up. So I'm very impatient. So that's something I got to work on. So I really attached to also to like digital art more since COVID happened. So yeah, I've been kind of on the digital art world more.
That's so cool, Deante. Actually, I have another question for you.
Yeah,
Yeah, I love your visual art as well,
thank you.
in addition to your beading. So as you mentioned, you're in school. You already have a degree in psychology and counseling, and you're getting your master's in clinical mental health. Do you ever use your art as healing or therapy for others, especially those who are trying to connect to their culture, to indigeneity or even Black culture?
Mhm. Yeah. So, okay. So I'm involved in like two different orgs. I'm the vice president of the Native American Students Association. I'm also an executive member of the Coalition of Black Counselors. I was one of the founders to like start the Coalition of Black Counselors one. And typically, I'm in charge of like the cultural type of like meetings that we have. So I always try to incorporate like expressive arts. Like recently, we just did something, which basically was like kind of like counseling and also like that. But kind of like framing it at a mind like what do you want to be as a generational healer. So we kind of like do like expressive art with that, and like told them like to write like an affirmation and also like artwork that represents you, like a symbol that represents you, and put that on like a card basically, and everybody was able to do that. And then at the end we would put it on the table, and then everybody would choose something different like that somebody had made. So like different things like that I would try to do, like expressive arts, because we also have like a lot of artists in our groups as well. uh, basically, yes, I have done that, and also as a counselor, expressive arts is something that I've typically always bring to like the counseling field and like my classmates. There's a thing called like Sandtray that's really big in like the counseling field, but I think that it's very useful because you can use different symbols, which I feel like symbolism is so big in like a lot of different Native American tribes. So you can use like different like figurines that you can use to describe like a certain scene that you're experiencing that you don't want to put words to. Uh, just you can like create a whole Sandtray like visual representation of like how you're feeling. So I think that it's very useful for not only like indigenous people because of our cultural like uh, significances with symbolism, but also like other people as well that I feel like they can benefit from that. But like I'm always thinking about like how it pertains to like cultural like Native American people, and I think that that's something that's really useful for me to use as like a counselor as well. I also do like a lot of guided meditation, especially like with like nature, like the environment, because I feel like that's really important to like be rooted in like land-based type of healing as well. So I do like guided meditation, like I did the activity calls like the rose bush. So basically, look at thinking of yourself as like a rose bush, and you go through like this guided meditation of like uh, looking at your surroundings, who's around you, like where are you at, what kind of petals would you have if you're a rose bush? Do you have what kind of leaves do you have? What color are you? Is it what's the weather like? Like really trying to like practice mindfulness and also art. So going through that mindfulness part first, and then like drawing it out. So it's different things that I try to like do as a counselor. Now that I'm also an internship, I'm seeing more clients now. So I always like to incorporate like expressive arts.
That's so cool. I love that. I was actually picturing like the rose bush scenario. That's really cool.
Thanks.
Thanks, Deante. And then Mikailah, you also offer beading classes in addition to your work. Do you through your classes, do you weave in your dual heritage with the people who are taking your classes? Is that part of the class itself?
Yes and no. I don't speak about, I guess, my like I kind of just focus on whatever we're kind of beating for that day, but I do make sure that it kind of stays, if it's not tribally affiliated, and BIPOC. Just because these are traditions, and a lot of these traditions are, some people are unable to have access into learning some of these traditions, or they're kind of pushed out to where they weren't, they didn't feel as if they were deserving to be taught some of these practices. And so that's why I like to make sure, it stays within us, and what we're doing first, and what they choose to do with that actor is up to them. But I like to make sure it's centered on, people, for us. Really, a lot of everything that I do is kind of for us, by us. And so I like to make sure that that's kind of where my classes stay. And then we kind of have that, but it also helps because once we're all sitting in there and we're beading, it is very much healing. Like, beadwork is healing. And I kind of go through that in the beginning of the class, and just making sure, you are in good spirits, you are in good energy. And, this is a safe space to bead and to, speak freely. So it's just really creating space and conversation. And within those classes, a lot of the participants are very thankful for it. It's been very heartwarming to have the classes. I remember the first one I did, and I was like, no one's going to show up. Like, they're going to be like, who does she think she is? Who can teach, beadwork? And so I just threw it out there. And then like my first class got 150 people. I was not ready for it. I was like, okay, so we're really doing this. And so then I just kept doing them and doing different types of beadwork and different types of classes, and just telling people, this is just a starting point. We're all artists in our own right. You can take it in any direction you want to take it. And so a lot of the participants have been, the messages that I receive have been really amazing, in terms of just, people wanting to learn, but not having that chance to learn. And then coming into these spaces and feeling comfortable enough to be in these spaces, because it's us, it's us beading. We have, the same kind of energy going into this, and the same kind of the initiative coming into this, and just speaking and being able to just do what we love, without feeling like we have to bite our tongue or feel uncomfortable. Like, this is our craft, and this is what we do. This is what we were taught, and it feels good to be around us. And it's been awesome too, because a lot of these people make connections within the classes, to where one time I got off, I'm like, I got something to do, and they were on for another hour and a half just talking and creating conversation. So yeah, it's been really rewarding, and just I'm grateful to be able to have access to teach people or show people how I bead, and starting that journey for them. So it's been awesome to just kind of be a fly on the wall at the same time.
That's amazing. I love that. That's so funny that you're just like, okay, you guys keep going. I've got to do something. I've got things to do. Well, very cool. So, well, both of you have brought up just not only just how meaningful it is to create your art, but also the challenges you faced along the way. Deante specifically, just the pushback and like reconnecting, and just feeling the being ostracized with people you wouldn't expect, people who are supposed to be so close to you and connected to you. I'm sure a lot of people feel that way, people who are trying to reconnect, and just everybody, right? So for both of you, what's your advice for, mixed race, Black or Afro-Indigenous people who want to express all facets of their identity, but maybe struggle to find a voice or an outlet? What would you say to them, Deante?
Have courage. I think that's what carried me so far. I remember like being so scared to even join the Native American Student Association. So I was like, what if they reject me? What if they think I'm not Native enough? What if I don't? Because I don't have my tribal card with me. It's only like a baby picture of me. They're gonna believe me. I had like all these thoughts. Then when I got there, it was totally different. So everybody just was, there was other mixed race natives there. I was only Black native there, so that still was something that was, different than everybody else's experience where they were sharing or like talking about like what it means to be native to them. It looks different for me. But being courageous, I think, helped me the most, and just saying yes, even though I want to say no to yourself, because I think that created the most healing for me. And like ever since then, I've just elevated with like my pride in myself and like both sides. Like I thought I always was like proud to be Black and Native, and I feel like I always was, but like it's just like I feel like I'm at a different level now with that. If that makes sense. I feel like I'm more like expressive of it and don't really care about others. Like I think I was more pride, like have that pride because nobody else identified as that. But like now I don't care if anybody identifies as that, or like there's nobody else in there. If there is more people that are like, I just like I'm doing it all for me. And before it was like just also trying to connect for to be closer to like my grandmother and everything, but then I switched to like doing it for me. And then it switched to doing it for the future generations. So it was just like levels to it. So I would say like trust the process, be courageous, and set your intentions. I think that would be very helpful too. Like know why you want to do it, what it matters, what really matters, and why does it matter. And I guess just trust everything. Trust community too, the power in community. Because I learned a lot from others, learning from their experiences and their journeys. And there's a lot of like similarities, even though if you are mixed with like white, if you're mixed with like Asian, or um, if you're Hispanic and Native, like there's a lot of similarities still. Um, different privileges that are had with those type of like different interracial mixes, but a lot of more similarities than I thought that I learned.
That's great. Thank you, Deante. That's amazing. And Mikailah, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot that comes into just leaping in, because there's a lot of internal work that you kind of have to do to take that leap. And I guess my first advice is to just leap in. This is who you are. This is who the room your ancestors pushed you in. Therefore, you're just as much welcome as anybody else. But it is an unpacking process to kind of get there. I think if you have the strong enough mentality just to go ahead and jump in, definitely just jump in. It's a no-brainer. If this is something that you want to do, don't let anybody else stop you from doing that. But I guess even through my journey, like I've been questioned by elders, and I've been questioned by, other classmates. It was this constant feeling to where it kind of became an insecurity of mine, even just up until recently, of feeling that, having that good enough feeling, when I'm in Native spaces, I'm too Black. When I'm in Black spaces, I'm too Native. And so just kind of working through that journey and having that kind of growing into that self-awareness and having that self-confidence, I think it does. There are support systems. When you do take those leaps, there are those support systems of people who have kind of been through that same thing. So I think it's important to kind of find that community and find those who support you. I think throughout my journey, I always leaned into those who were supporting me. And and that kind of comforted me a lot more than just assuming, walking into rooms scared, not knowing who's going to accept me. I already know who accepts me. So I think it's finding communities that suit you, whether they are Black Native, communities, or if they are just biracial communities. We have a lot of those similarities in a lot of different ways. And I was actually just speaking to someone asked me, I want to say she was white and Native, but she had the same, kind of, I was called upon to do something, but I don't think people will see me as enough to be a spokesperson. Therefore, I should give this opportunity to somebody else. And I was like, no, you keep that opportunity. Like, you still are Native. They asked you for a reason. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to be fluent in your language and, go to ceremony every week. Like, you are who you are, and that looks different from when it did 100 years ago. We're in a different time, and we're very much individualized into everything that we do, but we hold our people and our community so close that that's just naturally who we are. So when you're going into these different rooms, like, take all of that with you. This is who you are. You don't only want an explanation, like I had mentioned earlier, and just go for it. And if you're not sure where to start with community, for Black Natives specifically, me and my friend Kellen Lewis, we have a podcast called Quantum Theory, and we're all Black Natives. We bring in Black Natives to interview, and we talk about those situations. We get through the ugly, we get through the happy. If we don't know how to feel, we'll say that. So it's also just having a grip of your mental health. I like that. Deante brought up meditation. I just started meditation, and I absolutely love it. So I've been going strong for the last 2 weeks. And so it's just painting that picture of doing some of the things and engaging in some of the things that our ancestors couldn't. If they had a choice to, they would, and mental health is a huge one. So I think it's just finding your community, but also, being a representation of, having a strong mental health, of doing things we couldn't always do or have access to. So it's just living in your whole self and living it unapologetically, and, living in your truth at the same time. If you don't know your language, you don't have to act like you know your language. You can say, I'm learning, so it's just going through with an open and honest heart, but leaping towards the things that that you want to do. And once you get through them, you'll realize it wasn't that bad. And it becomes a domino effect of becoming and blooming into this person who you want to be and see yourself as. Sorry, that was really long-winded, but yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love that, for sure. And yeah, definitely we'll have to check out your podcast. That sounds amazing. And it's interesting too that I've interviewed like full-blood Native people who ask themselves the same question: am I Native enough? Even because they don't know their language, they don't know traditions, and I feel like that question comes up no matter what. Which I blame colonization, but there you go. So I think that's great advice from both of you. That's really inspiring for sure. I wanted to remind people to leave questions in our Slack channel. I know we already have one, which we'll get to shortly. I still have a couple of questions for you both. Back to Mikailah for this one. I was looking at your Instagram and I saw this, you had this great point of view on beading, and it was like, when you're not motivated, stay consistent. And I think that's like a life lesson for lots of things. But like, is that can you expand on that, or just share like how you keep going when sometimes maybe you aren't motivated to be super creative?
Yeah, and that's a challenge I think every artist or entrepreneur especially has, is just you constantly have to be on. You have to, think in ways that most people don't think. That's what makes you an artist. And so I think when it comes to staying consistent, I think first of all, I have to, because this is my job, so I got to pay my bills. Like, I gotta stay consistent. But aside from that, I think the more I just keep going, and the more I get up in the morning and I do something that's towards who I want to be, push work aside. It's just who I want to be as an artist and who I see myself to be. It's like you have to keep going. You have to try new things, even if you don't know what direction you're going in. You just keep going, and it will spark you to go either down this way or down this way, or it kind of creates itself. And that's kind of how I am with beading. A lot of people think I have this pattern to where this is what I do, this is how I do it, gets it done. And I'm like, no, I go into a lot of these things blindly. Like, I just try new things and I create as I go. And I think that's kind of important just in life as well. Is when you get up in the morning, it's like go towards the things that bring you joy. Go towards the things that challenge you. Don't go towards comfortable. Stay consistent into doing things that you actually bring out a side of you that you maybe didn't see yesterday. So and I think that's how you grow, and that's how you become who you want to become. And in terms of living in your purpose, because your purpose comes through your passion, right? So it's like as you continue to do the things that that bring out life in you, even when on days you doesn't feel like it. Sometimes it just takes putting one foot in front of the other towards the things that you enjoy doing. And a lot of the ways that blooms. A lot of these creations, it blooms the person you want to become. It blooms other opportunities. And I can really just say that in terms of the last 2 years, it's been a huge blessing of just waking up and doing the things that I personally find joy in, or I personally challenge myself to, even on days I don't feel like it, And we all kind of go through those moods and those emotions of not feeling like it, and that's just very human of us. There's nothing wrong with you. We all, have the ups and downs of our emotions, but sometimes it's just taking one foot in front of the other, and just going towards like I said, the things that really kind of bring out the best in you. And by that, I think alone is staying consistent. I think everyone's consistent is different. I don't want to compare it to mine, but it's really just doing one thing at a time to bring you joy. And I think you'll find your purpose, and you'll find those passions, and next thing you know, you're living in them. So I guess that's kind of what I felt through kind of that quote and through that reel.
I love that. Thanks, Mikailah. And Deante, what's some of the mantras or motivation that you use in your art?
So sad because I'm actually like struggling with motivation right now. And now, yeah, those words are hitting me. What Mikailah was saying, I was like, dang, I gotta just keep going. So, yeah, I have like 2 big projects I have to do, and I just don't have the motivation, and I'm like struggling. But I'm trying to because usually, okay, as an artist for me, it depends what kind of art. So if I'm doing beadwork, yeah, I'm more like the go with the flow. I don't plan nothing. I just let my spirit guide me. But if it's like digital art, I usually get a vision before I do that artwork. And I haven't had a vision at all for these artworks I have to do. And I'm like, maybe it's because I forced these things because I just wanted the opportunity versus like what I'm passionate about. Because they're like over stuff that I'm not really like into right now. So it's like I'm doing a project for like partnering with like NASA, and it's like basically like meteorites that landed on tribal land. So I'm like helping like design a website for that. And it's with TCU.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it's really cool. Yeah, it's with TCU. I guess landed on Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw land. Three meteorites. So they have me like on like kind of designing like the website, but I can't think of anything because I don't know much about space and stuff. So I'm just like, I took it because that was a big thing, but I don't have the motivation because I don't have a passion for it. So when you said like the passion, it's like, dang, that's probably why. But yeah, I'm struggling right now. So I don't really have nothing for that. I'm just trying to like force myself because typically I operate with like a vision. Like it just kind of comes to me and I'm like, that's what I'm gonna do. Like I just see it in my head, or I dream about it, or it just comes to me and I'm like, I gotta make it come to life. But I haven't had that yet, so I'm kind of waiting. I don't know if I need to like well, like before I used to do like a lot of like nature walks, and that helped me a lot, kind of like get my head just in a good space. I haven't been able to walk because my schedule's been so busy with school and like internship and like so many different things I have just jumbling. I have like presentations and like conferences that I'm planning for, and just been a lot. So I think I've been not taking like care of my mental space to like flesh out different things that I'm juggling to be able to have that motivation. So I think I need to get back to that. So I appreciate this whole healing.
I do want to say something really quick though, because like I said, it is perfectly normal. And I know you kind of just questioned yourself for a second, like, should I be doing this? They gave me this job. Maybe I shouldn't. I think at the end of the day, what's for you will always be for you. Like, that's very common to hear, but I think they gave it to you for a reason and you can handle it. I think it's just finding those pockets of time that you can get away. Like, you know what? I don't have to stay. I can leave 5 minutes early, or I have 15 minutes before my class. Let me tap into a meditation, or let me call somebody who I look up to. So it's like we constantly have to find ways to motivate ourselves, and what may have motivated us last year or last month or even last week for that matter might not motivate us today. So
Yeah.
it's just tapping into things and finding ways that, are different spaces, challenge yourself to go into different spaces.
That's true.
Or if you feel like, okay, maybe that's too much, I always take Oprah's quote: when you don't know what to do, do nothing. You know what I'm saying? Like, just kind of calm your mind out. So very real in terms of your experience, because it's very common, I think, amongst artists. So yeah, just finding those pockets of ways to kind of get back to us and allow the world to just be quiet for a second, I think definitely helps. But yeah, I totally agree. It was super relatable. So I was like, oh, I gotta speak on this.
I appreciate that. I think it's so sad because I'm like, I tell my clients this kind of stuff and I don't practice it. So I think it's
that's everybody.
Yeah.
It's like, you know exactly what to say to yourself, but it never sticks.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Oh, I love this. I love this artistic collaboration here. That's awesome. Thanks to both of you. So we're gonna jump into questions from our Slack channel, and please continue to add questions if you haven't. But before we do that, I want to make sure that everybody knows where we can find both of you, like your websites, your Instagram handles, and we can share it again at the end. But please, if you, where can we find you, Mikailah?
Yeah, everything is kind of beadwork by Mikailah. So Instagram is at beadwork by Mikailah, same with Facebook. And then my website, of course, beadworkbymikailah.com. If you're looking for quantum theory, if you go to Mikailah, like at Mikailah Thompson on Instagram, it has all of my handles for each of the things that I do. But if you're looking for beadwork specifically, just Instagram. I need to branch out of and go into different social media, but I feel very old in that way to where I'm very comfortable on Instagram. So you can find everything there for now.
Awesome. And Deante?
So I'm on TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook. So my Instagram and TikTok is at Dearte _. And then my Facebook, I guess, will be Shop with Dearte. And then my website is, the link is on all those. I don't want to say it because it's a Shopify. So it's a long one.
Awesome. And I've linked to it in our Slack channel. So if anybody wants to just go to our Native American ERG Slack channel, both of you are linked there. Okay, so I'm going to jump into a question. How long did Mikailah and Deante's first pieces take versus how long it would take them now to complete a piece of the same caliber?
That's interesting. I think mine, honestly, it took, I don't really know, because I picked it up and dropped it, and I remember I was doing it in my job. Okay, so I was working at Walmart, and I was working like in the gas station area, and I was bringing it like for shifts. So I'm trying to think. I feel like it took me like, I want to say a week, honestly, but I don't know like the exact hours. But I remember I was like doing it constantly, like I was at my job. But now I feel like it'll be so much faster. I noticed that. I remember like wanting to be fast, and it took me forever. I was like constantly hurting myself, constantly trying to like I just learned different hacks like I seen on TikTok and like other bead workers. I'm like, oh wow, it's so much easier. And I haven't got the whole two needle stitch. Like I don't know that, but I hopefully I can. But I think it'll be like, I feel like I could finish this in a day now. Honestly, if I really like sat down and did it, I know I could probably finish that.
Yeah, when I think about my first, well, I had a lot of unfinished pieces first before my completed piece, but my completed piece was a medallion. That was my first completed piece. I don't even know how long it took. That was like a good 10 years ago. I want to say it easily weeks. But yeah, I can knock out a medallion in one sitting. It's the only thing I had patience for. I have patience for nothing else. Everything is let's go. This could have been an email. But like with beading, I can sit down for like 8 hours at a time. So yeah, so like medallions specifically with the beaded rope, I can get done with anywhere between 6 to 8 hours, but before it probably was like weeks on end. Or hats, for example, my first hat took me 11 or 12 hours. Now I can get it done in about 5 hours. So yeah, I always tell people that's what you're paying for. You're paying for the blood, the sweat, the tears, the time it took to learn. Just because I got it done this fast, it took me 10 years to get this fast. So like, so yeah, it's a lot of the stuff I like to get done within just hopefully within a day, if not within a few days.
That's awesome. That's like such progress. Like I can't find the words. No, that's really amazing. And another question, I'd love to hear something about your tribes that you wish more people would know about them.
I would say we're not called Nez Pierce. We're called Nez Perce. I get that all the time, and it's like my biggest pet peeve because the French came over and I don't know why they thought we had pierced noses when we've never had pierced noses. So we call ourselves Nez Perce, or better yet, Nimiipuu. But in terms of any other deep facts, gosh, there's so much, and I always blank when I get this question because I think my grandpa Otis Halfmoon, who's like a huge spokesperson on Nimiipuu history, and then I just completely blank. But get a little intimidated from him. But yeah, that's one of my biggest pet peeves. But in terms of cool facts and things like that, we're a great group of people. Just Google us. I don't know.
I don't know. I think like my tribe is mostly known for like the highest rate of type 2 diabetes in the world. So I want to like really, I wish they do more about like what we've done to help with that. So like growing our own foods and revitalizing the white bean, which was almost like extinct. I think that should be more of the focus of how like historically we were like did amazing agriculture, farmers, and built the canals that are there today in Phoenix. Things like that. I think change the narrative with that globally.
Yeah. Oh, I could say this. We got good horses. I didn't even think about that. We've always been known for our horses. Sorry. As soon as you started bringing up yours, I was like, okay, we have some fun facts. But our horses are very well known as well. We are known for Appaloosa horses, so we're like a warriors people. So that's something I think a lot of people don't realize, but some people do realize in terms of knowing kind of the history of what type of people we were, which were warrior people as well. So that's something that's really cool that I also noticed that some people realize. But then also we come from kind of a matriarch, so a lot of the women kind of are definitely the backbone of our people. So those are just a couple things. I'm sure I'll think of everything after this is over, but those are a couple. I bet I gotta throw something in there.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I didn't know that about the Appaloosa horses. That's good to know. Okay, and next question. What piece are you most proud of creating, or what piece is the most sentimental piece for you?
For me, as of right now, I really like my fully beaded canvas, even though for me it's very, it's not as detailed as I originally wanted it. I was like, it's something that I was dreaming to do for years. And once I did it, I was like super proud of myself, and I could only go up from here. And so that was one of the pieces I was proud of because it was something that I was longing to make, and I made it possible. And I went into it scared. I didn't know how it was going to turn out or if it was even going to be doable. So I really like my fully beaded canvas. I've done a lot more detailed pieces that I'm still, proud of, but that one was something to where it was something I was dreaming of for I don't know how long. And then I finally did it. And the fact that I did it made me feel like, oh, you can do this now. And so now I'm doing more canvases. But that was one that I was really proud of.
I actually saw that and that was really amazing. Mine is this one, the self-portrait of myself. Oh, I don't know if you can see it or not. Oh my God.
Well, that's on your Instagram, right?
My Instagram.
Oh, yeah. Oh, cool.
It was the first time I actually got to put like everything that like represents me culturally. And also it was a Afro-Indigenous art, not competition, but art gallery exhibition. so yeah, I got to be included with other Black and Native artists, and that was like something I kind of dreamed of. I never knew that would be exist or a space for that. So it was super special. And I remember when I first entered it in, I was like, I didn't know like how I was gonna go. I didn't know, and I remember like when they chosen me to be a part of it, I was like, yes. And then from there on, I even used that for like a scholarship that I entered in, and I won a national scholarship with that artwork. So that was pretty cool, and I got a lot of opportunities with that, and just support with my artwork, and to be able to see that, and that connected me to like more tribal members, and then people like um, just like in my community where I live at. And I was even like put in the news of my tribe, and I never thought that would be possible when I was a child. So I was like, wow, like this artwork has really connected me to so much. So that's my most proud one.
I love that. Thank you so much. Well, thank you both for joining us today. Be sure to check out Beadwork by Mikailah and Dearte _ right?
Yes.
On Instagram. You guys have been so inspiring today. I know I've learned a lot, and I really appreciate your time. And thank you again so much for being here.